I am going to talk about making some water kefir today. Our diets have been way too sterile and we need some new healthy flora in our intestinal tract. And so I've been making water kefir for several years now, and it's really cut our doctor visits down. The gut bacteria is really necessary to have to help break down sugars, break down carbohydrates, and they help create hormones that help give you, or chemicals to help give you a better mood. So this piece I got is really handy to have. It has a little screen in here that pops out, and that's a handy piece when I am making water kefir. You'll want some good spring water that doesn't have any chlorine in it. You need dechlorinated water at least. And some good organic sugar. You don't want any pesticides that are going to harm the bacterial cultures. And for this one, I'm using some ginger powder because I'm making a ginger flavored water kefir. So the water kefir is a bunch of bacteria and yeast cultures that work together to break down sugars, and they turn that into alcohol, but we do an open fermentation and the bacteria turns that alcohol into vinegar if left too long. So if it goes for a couple weeks, you have made vinegar, and you could distill that and use it as vinegar. You can make, it's similar to apple cider vinegar. I've made apple cider water kefir before, and that's really delicious. Today we're doing some ginger kind, and we'll get to it. So these water kefir cultures, you can order them online, and I have a bunch here that are doing really well, and when I create too much I just throw them in the freezer and we can use them for later. So this is a frozen batch that we're gonna work with. So we want to keep everything as sterile as we can, and I just put some water in here. I didn't measure it out. I'm going to add some heat to the water, and we're going to add 1 cup of sugar. Add 1 cup of sugar to this. We're going to bring it to a boil to make this a syrup, essentially. And I'm going to add a spoon full of ginger. Mix that in. That will be really good. Ginger is really good for the stomach. It's a wonderful herb. Has a lot of beneficial properties. I recommend looking them up. And I'm going to let that heat up and we'll come back to it. So, got to be careful that this doesn't boil over. I just had a little bit of a boil over, but we can see it's nicely dissolved. So one issue that we have is taking antibiotics all the time. These antibiotics that doctors give to us for everything create superbugs, and they kill off all the good bacteria that you need in your stomach. So if you've taken antibiotics before, chances are you probably need to have a good dose of probiotics to help your intestinal flora. and we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so what we have to do here is we're going to buffer this bottle. We put spring water in it here. If I throw hot water in this glass, it just might break it. So, add water to that. Over there. And then I'm gonna not even touch this. We will pause that. I'm going to drop the fillet. It's still pretty warm. We don't want to kill the kefir cultures. They need to stay at around room temperature. So I'm hoping this temperature balances out pretty soon. I'm using spring water. This is not tap water. I have it run into my house, and this is one of the reasons I like not living in a big urban area, is we get clean water. Have options for clean water when we... So I'm going to put quite a bit of kefir in this. Pause this. Drop that culture in there. Top it off. We have to leave some room in it, so we want to bring it up to about this level here, and that'll provide enough headroom for it to breathe. Now that I have it topped off how I want, I took this rag and I put it in the microwave to sterilize it, and this rubber band, we'll put that there, and we are going to just put it up and out of the way. We're going to let that sit for about 5 days, and then we can bottle it and let it sit for another several days, and it will carbonate. If we leave it in the bottles too long, it will explode because there's still a lot of sugar in the mix, so it'll have to be refrigerated. I like to use these kinds of bottles here, and they're great for WaterKefir bottling short term, and we'll get back to it then. So now it is a little bit later. We have our WaterKefir, as you can see here, settled down to the bottom, and we're going to pour it off through our filtered funnel. So it should be fine. And voila. Here's our kefir mix, and it has some of the ginger residue in it. But that's some healthy kefir there. There's more in here, so I'm going to rinse this out with our good spring water. Always use spring water or non-chlorinated water. that is that, and I can just go right back into this bottle to do another batch. So you just lift that off and let that kefir go right back down in there. There we go. Close that. Now we have this bottle of kefir that we can put into bottles. I'll just do one to show you. Check the focus, the frame. Let's see if that'll be good there. And I'm going to leave a little headroom for the carbonation. Bottle that. And that is, you can do that to all the rest of them, or you could put it in a glass. You can give it a try. It won't be carbonated, but you can get a idea of how it is, and you can try that. It's pretty good. Still pretty sweet. It tastes like a ginger ale right now, and it'll turn to be more vinegar as time goes on. So we just heated up more ginger sugar water just like before, and I put some padding water in there, so the kefir's still in that bottle with that water, and slowly put this in. I'm going to add some more of this, try to keep the temperature down. I don't want to cook it by any means. Oops. This tends to work okay. Establish our cover. I'm going to just rinse the outside of this bottle. I spilled a little bit on it. Keep things from getting too sticky. Reestablish this cloth over the top, and that can sit for another 5 days. I like to go get apple juice in glass containers. Use those for the WaterKefir. It works out really well. So that will sit for another 5 days, and this will be ready to drink in probably 4 or 5 days as well. You don't want to leave this in the bottle too long because the bottles will explode. So after 3 or 4 days, move it to the refrigerator. So there you have it. Making WaterKefir is super easy, and it's great to have on hand for those times you get sick, your immune system feels low, or you just want a yummy sparkling beverage that isn't one of those junk food kind of deals. So it's really good to have. So if you like this content, please rate, share, subscribe, and you'll get my future videos, and I appreciate that. I wish you well. Best of health. Thank you.